my name is Rachel and I'm here today to film a wrap up for the month of May. I have 7 books that I finished in May and then a few books that I'm currently reading, well, was currently reading and that I'm not currently reading more, unfortunately for some. Usually I do my wrap-ups in order of my least favourite to my most favourite. I'm not going to do that this month because I read some books for 2 different readathons. So I read some books for Mentalhealth-a-thon and I read some books for the Asian Readathon as well, and then I have some others. So I'm just going to mention them in those little groups that are going on. So I'm going to start with a book that was for the Mental Health Fund but also goes into the Asian Readathon as well, and I didn't really realise at the time, but it does, and that is This One Summer by Jillian and Mariko Tamaki. I absolutely adore this graphic novel. This is the second time that I've read it and it was even better on reread. I think it's such a wonderful novel. It's very quiet, it's not like comic-y action, which is what I don't really appreciate in graphic novels. It's very just like character driven. In this we follow a little girl who goes to a summer house with her family. They go there very often in the summer holidays and she meets her friend there who is like her friend from since she was a kid, but they only ever meet on their summer holidays. We basically see like their relationship and family dynamics and all of that sort of stuff. The thing that I love about this book is that the mother is suffering with, I would say, depression. You never really get to find out what it is because you're in the eyes of the daughter and the daughter doesn't understand. And the thing that I love with this book is that it feels very real, that relationship between them, that daughter not really understanding, because you know, kids don't understand mental health problems. They don't, if they can't see it, they don't really know it's there. And she's just like, why can't you be more fun? Dad's really fun. Why are you always sad all the time? You're making it rubbish the holiday. Like, she just doesn't understand what a mum's going through. And I think it's a really well done relationship between the two of them. And so yeah, I love this book. I gave it 4 stars. Again, like, it is just absolutely wonderful. And the art style is also really beautiful. It's kind of black and white and then kind of a bit purple as well. And would just recommend. It's a really great graphic novel. So after I'd read that, I happened to pick up another book that could count for the Asian Readathon just because I have been running a lot since I got back from Switzerland because it's like good weather here to run. In Switzerland it was always like way too cold or way too hot, and here it's just like always the same stagnant shitty temperature, which is really good if you want to run. So it means that I have been running a lot more, and so one of the books that I leaned towards wanting to pick up because of that was What I Talk About When I Talk About Running by Haruki Murakami. I've had this on my shelf for quite a while and wanted to pick it up. I finally did. I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. This is basically Murakami going through his process with running, how he sees running, his relationship with it, how he has made it part of his daily routine, and it's something that keeps him himself. Like, he depends on it to like keep his mental health ticking over, to keep himself healthy. He attaches achievements to it and he defines himself as a runner, and it's something that he really like thrives in. And so we see him training for marathons in this. We see some of his like newspaper articles and essays and stuff about running from other places, like magazines that he's written for, and we see a hell of a lot of that. And then the other thing is that he does talk about writing a little bit, and he talks about writing in comparison to running and like that kind of daily habit of keeping something ticking over and things like that. So it's a really good book. I would recommend it, and I read it extremely fast. I mention a lot that I don't read non-fiction very fast, and I read this in the space of 4 days, a week, something like that. So even though it's quite short, it felt good. It felt like a really fun book to read, so would highly recommend this one. And then after that I was like watching YouTube videos, saw that it was the Asian Readathon, was like, oh, I've already read 2, why not pick up another? So I had a look and scan on my I had a little scan of my shelves to see if there were any books that would fit the like Asian Readathon criteria that I hadn't picked up yet, and one of them was Langley's Lullabies. This is a poetry collection. Unfortunately, not great. I gave it 2 stars in the end. So you can tell with poetry collections if they're a good poetry collection because they will be covered in tabs if I've read them. And so you can tell that like I didn't enjoy any of this first section. It was just like not enjoyable. And then in the middle it kind of picked up. She's doing more like prose poetry and telling stories through it, which I love in poetry. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'm enjoying this. We're getting back to it. And then as you can see, it stopped. And it went back to how it was in the beginning. And so I didn't enjoy that. So I gave it 2 stars because that middle bit was enjoyable. But apart from that, I didn't enjoy it, and I wouldn't really recommend this poetry collection. I don't think I'll pick up any other poetry collections by this poet. Then we have some books of mental health fun. So obviously we had the graphic novel that I read, then we have another book that I read, and then we have some books that I'm currently reading and one that I just want to ask about. So I'm going to go with that first. So that is The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. I got 27 pages into this book and just wasn't enjoying it, wasn't really loving the writing style, found it a bit boring. But I do hear people talk about this book quite a lot. So if you've read this book and enjoyed it, let me know. If you've read it and you're like, yeah, it continues to be kind of boring and not great writing, also let me know, because I don't know whether to just like DNF it and get rid of it. So if you have read it, let me know. Then the book that I read was Hunger by Roxanne Gay. So I listened to this on audiobook, which so glad that I did, because it is read by Roxanne Gay herself, which is something that I really enjoy in like biographies and autobiographies. It's one of the reasons that I think most autobiographies now I wouldn't read physically. I would listen to the audiobook, because they're so often read by the person. It just makes it feel like they're having a conversation with you, and I adore that. So with this audiobook, it was really, really fun, because I just moved back from Switzerland. I was unpacking my things, I was moving stuff around, because obviously I've got these 2 rooms now, so I was like moving my stuff between the 2 rooms. I emptied all of the attic in our house to get rid of a load of stuff that was just like in there for ages that we didn't need anymore, and I was just doing a lot of like householdy jobs that took a long period of time but were really boring. So I was listening to Hunger the whole time. So I finished it in a few days, and it was really like close together. Like I feel like I had a really good overview of the whole book because I'd listened to it so close together. So I had a really good reading experience with it, and like I said, I gave it 4 stars. Now in this book, Roxanne Gay talks about her relationship with her body. She talks about the relationship between her body and the society around her, which was definitely my favourite part of the book. She talks about things like going to get on a plane, the seatbelts won't fit her because her body's too big, and so she started bringing her own extensions because people would make a really big deal about it and try and like embarrass her and look down the nose at her. So she started bringing extensions, and then some planes were like, no, we're not going to let you use your own extension that you brought, we're going to make a really big deal anyway of still embarrassing you. And so there were things like that that I found really, really interesting. And I have family members in my life that like aren't the kind of size that she was talking about, but are definitely overweight, and so it was interesting seeing the things that she said, because I've seen some of those reactions happening to family members, and so it was quite nice to like hear someone else talking about it. She also talks quite a lot about her relationships. I think that she is bisexual. I don't really know. I don't think she says in the book, but she constantly talks about the relationships that she's had with men, the relationships she's had with women, just letting you know, because if you're into LGBT stuff, there is some LGBT representation in there. There's a lot of talk about eating disorders, which I find quite difficult to read at times. Also, the way that she talks about her body, I feel like if people have any like self-esteem issues to do with the weight, it could be difficult. I personally do have self-esteem issues to do with weight and things like that, so it was difficult at times, but I could still read it. So just be aware of that going into it. It is an absolutely fantastic memoir. The things that have happened to her in her life, she has let define her in the past. I think that's the whole point of her body. Like, she was sexually abused by a group of boys when she was a teenager, and she let that define her body, and she let her body become something that wasn't appealing, so wouldn't be attacked. However, as she's grown older, she's kind of not let that weight and that interaction define her, and by the very creation of this memoir, like, it shows that she has overcome it and she doesn't let these things define her. And it's just a really nice memoir to read about someone who has been through so many challenges, Jesus Christ, so many difficult situations, and is just like overcoming them and, you know, becoming a better person out of it. So yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed this memoir. I'm very excited to read more of Roxanne Gay's stuff. I have Bad Feminist already. I've had it for quite a while, so I'm really excited to pick that one up next. So yeah, that was 4 stars. That one and the Haruki Murakami were definitely like the best things that I read this month, and they were both non-fiction, which is so weird for me. I feel like, actually, I've always like said this about non-fiction, but this year I feel like I'm saying it in every video because I've read quite a lot of non-fiction this year, which is surprising me. So maybe I'm becoming like a non-fiction person, who knows? Next book I wanted to mention is one that I was also picking up for Mentalhealth-a-thon, and that was Rough Magic by Paul Alexander, and this is a biography of Sylvia Plath. So I said in my TBR, like, I'm definitely was not planning to read all of this month. There was no chance. It's quite big and I had a lot of other stuff I wanted to read. But I did start reading it. I'm about halfway through the 3rd chapter, I think, and I'm enjoying it so far. It's definitely giving me a little bit more insight into Sylvia Plath's life. The first chapter focuses on the months leading up to her death, but the thing that I really enjoyed is that it talks about her poetry and her process with poetry and how she was writing it at the time, and her first publishings of poetry and how that was going, which was really fascinating to read about. Will say this doesn't seem like the most on point, factual, backed up kind of biography. He does in the introduction explain that straight away and say one of the reasons for that is that he didn't want to apply to the estate because the estate is run by Ted Hughes' sister, I think it is, and she didn't actually like Sylvia Plath very much. She's been very open about that, and so it's a little bit awkward getting quotes and all that sort of stuff from the estate and getting them backed up, and if he uses any of them they'll read it and they'll, you know, they might ask him to change things. They've done that in the past and he didn't want to do that, so I understand why it's not there, but also like just know you can feel that that's missing as you're reading it. So yeah, I've been reading this. This is quite enjoyable. We'll be carrying on with that after this month because obviously I'm just reading LGBT stuff this month, but after that we'll definitely be carrying on with this. And then the other book that I started reading that I've not finished yet is The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides, which I'm having trouble with because, like I just said, I'm reading exclusively LGBT stuff this month and I love doing that. I love LGBT content. It makes me very, very happy. That's what I want to do. I want to exclusively read it. But I'm really loving this book. So I am 59 pages into this and it is so good. So good. The descriptions and the way that it's written is just unbelievable, and at times it kind of is like shocking and I'm like, Jesus, why do you write it like that? And then I remember who the narrator of this story is meant to be and I'm like, okay, I get it, but it's still kind of weird, but it's intriguing and just, oh, I love it. I love it so much. And even though I've seen the film of this a few years ago, I can't quite remember everything, but I have watched it. And so like, I know the basic premise, but I still, when I'm reading it, I'm like, I want to know more, I want to know more. Even though I know already, it is just, oh, this is so well put together. I'm really, really enjoying it. So who knows whether I will end up just picking this up and finishing it this month. If I don't, I'll definitely be finishing it next month because I'm enjoying it so much. It's so well written, so I would highly recommend The Virgin Suicides. And then finally I've got some books that aren't for any of those things. I just read them because I was back home and I had my graphic novels again. So the first one is I Hate Fairyland by Scottie Young. I gave this 3 stars. This was enjoyable, but to be honest, I'm not sure if I would carry on with it. It's very colourful, it's well drawn. I don't know, like, I just wasn't loving it. I didn't feel drawn in. Like I said, I don't really like the whole fast plot kind of graphic novels, so it makes sense that I wouldn't like it, to be honest. But sometimes I do like them. Like I do like Saga in the next series I'm going to mention. I also really enjoy, so there was a chance I could like it, but to be honest, no, it's not really my thing. So I won't really be continuing with this series. And then like I said, obviously I've got another series here, and that is Sex Criminals Volumes 1 and 2. I've read Sex Criminals Volume 1 before and I gave it 4 stars, I think. I gave it 4 stars again. This book just makes me laugh so much. It's basically, we open with this girl who we meet her and she talks about her life and she talks about how when she has sex, time stops when she orgasms, and she basically ends up meeting this guy and the same thing happens. And so when they stop time, they decide to go and rob a bank. And then you have this like time stopped sex police who come after them and all of that sort of stuff. It's very weird, but it's funny and I really enjoyed it. So I gave this one 4 stars, and this was a reread. And then the second one I read for the first time and I gave it 3 stars. It definitely wasn't as enjoyable or as good as the first one, so I don't know if I'll continue with them. It might be a case of getting the next one and then if I feel the same about it, I might just stop reading the series. But as far as the first one goes, it was amazing, so I'm hoping it kind of picks back up and returns to what I was enjoying, but we'll see. So these are the books that I read in the month of May. I had quite a good reading month, and yeah, it was just nice to be able to just pick up what I wanted. Like, I just was randomly like, oh, I'm into running, I'm gonna pick up this book. Oh, I want to read some poetry, I'll pick up this book. Oh, I want to read some graphic novels, I'll pick up this book, which I haven't been able to do for like 2 years because I've been in Switzerland and not had a lot of these books with me and not had as much choice. So it's been absolutely lovely to be back here and to be able to do that again. Thank you very much for watching. Like I said, if you've read this book and liked it, didn't like it, please can you let me know down below. And yeah, I will see you in my next video. Bye!